You can earn $100,000 a year and still be 2 bad months away from financial collapse. Not because you're careless, but because the system quietly drains you while making you feel successful. The scary part? Most people only realize this after it's too late, and by then, the math is already against them. If you've ever felt like you make good money but somehow never feel secure, this video will connect the dots in a way no one explains. And if you want deeper insights, practical money strategies, and even more absurd financial truths, join our Telegram channel. The link is in the description below. Walk into an apartment on a random Tuesday morning. A guy named Daniel lives there. He's 34, makes $118,000 a year, solid job, good benefits, the kind of life that looks stable from the outside. Then his phone buzzes. Email from HR. Important update. His access is gone before he even finishes reading. Laptop locked, badge disabled, income zero. Now walk into another apartment in the same building. Same age, same city, but a completely different setup. Her name is Priya. She makes less, about $74,000, but from multiple sources. One client drops her. She loses $1,400 a month. She shrugs, sends 2 emails, starts looking for replacements, and keeps moving. She's uncomfortable, but she's not collapsing. This is the part nobody tells you. Stability is not about how much you earn. It's about how fragile your system is, and most high earners are running extremely fragile systems. Let's make this uncomfortable for a second. If your income stopped today, how long could you maintain your life exactly as it is? Not survive, maintain. Same apartment, same car, same habits, same sense of normal. Most people think the answer is a while. The reality? For a shocking number of people earning $80,000, $120,000, even $200,000, it's 60 to 90 days. That's it. Because high income creates an illusion. It feels like progress, but it often builds a life that requires constant income just to stay standing. Think about it like this. Your salary is not your wealth. It's your fuel. And if your entire lifestyle depends on constantly refilling that tank, you're not driving forward, you're just idling. Now let me show you how this actually plays out in real life. Meet Marcus. He makes $115,000 a year. Good job. Been there 6 years. From the outside, he's doing everything right. After taxes and deductions, he takes home around $6,900 a month. Sounds solid. Now let's subtract reality. Mortgage, $2,400. Car payment, $580. Student loans, $420. Insurance, $310. Groceries, $900. Utilities and everything else, $380. Before he's even lived his life, he's already committed almost $5,000. That leaves him with about $1,900. He saves some, spends some, feels responsible, feels stable. But here's the problem. His entire system works perfectly, only if nothing goes wrong. Now introduce one variable. He loses his job. Month 1, unemployment kicks in, around $4,200. But his expenses? Still $4,990. He's already losing money, and that's before anything unexpected happens. Then comes the hidden hit nobody talks about, health insurance. It was $310 through his employer. Without that subsidy, over $2,000 a month. Now his deficit isn't a few $100s. It's nearly $3,000 a month. Think about that. You can do everything right, earn good money, save a little, be responsible, and still be mathematically guaranteed to fall behind the moment income stops. That's not a discipline problem. That's a system problem. And this is where most people get it completely backwards. They think, I just need to earn more. But earning more without changing the structure just scales the problem, because income doesn't fix fragility. It hides it. Let me show you something even more dangerous. There's a concept in investing called concentration risk. It means putting too much into one place. If you invested 100% of your money into a single stock, any financial advisor would panic. It's reckless. It's unstable. It's one bad outcome away from disaster. Now here's the irony. Most people have 100% of their income coming from one source, one employer, one paycheck, one decision they don't control. That's not just risky. That's extreme concentration. And yet, it's normalized. We call it a stable job. But stability that can disappear overnight isn't stability. It's temporary alignment. And the higher your income, the more dangerous this illusion becomes. Because higher income usually comes with higher fixed costs. Better apartment, better car, more subscriptions, more lifestyle expectations. Each upgrade feels small, reasonable, earned. But together, they quietly raise the minimum amount of money required to sustain your life. This is the trap. You don't notice it while things are working. You only feel it when they stop. And by then, the math is already working against you. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. You're not broke because you don't earn enough. You're broke because your life is expensive to maintain. Those are not the same thing. One is an income problem, the other is a structural problem. And structural problems don't get solved with more money. They get solved with different decisions. Now let's zoom out. There are two types of financial lives people build. The first one looks impressive. High income, nice lifestyle. Everything feels upgraded. But underneath, it's tight, dependent, fragile. The second one looks normal, sometimes even boring. But underneath, it's flexible, resilient, quietly growing. The difference isn't luck. It's not intelligence. It's not even income. It's how the system is built. And most people accidentally build the first one, because the world constantly rewards you for looking successful, not for being secure. You get praised for the car, not for having 6 months of expenses saved. You get validation for the apartment, not for having low fixed costs. You get attention for spending, not for stability. So people optimize for what's visible and ignore what actually matters. Let me ask you something. If your income disappeared tomorrow, would your life collapse or adjust? That question tells you everything. Because real wealth isn't about how much you make. It's about how long you can operate without needing to make anything at all. And once you see that clearly, you start realizing something uncomfortable. A lot of people who look rich are just well paid and highly exposed. And a lot of people who look average are quietly becoming unbreakable. Think about that. Now here's where it gets even more uncomfortable. Because once you understand that fragility is the real problem, you start noticing it everywhere. Not just in big things like jobs or income, but in the small decisions that quietly lock people into financial pressure. Let's go back to Marcus for a second. Nothing about his life looks extreme. That's the scary part. He's not reckless. He's not gambling. He's not making obviously bad decisions. He just followed the default path. Got a good job, upgraded his apartment when he got a raise, financed a decent car because he could afford the monthly, kept his lifestyle in line with his income. Normal, reasonable, expected. But normal doesn't mean safe. It just means common. And common financial behavior is exactly what keeps most people stuck. Let me show you how this actually builds over time. Imagine two people get the same $5,000 raise. Same company, same role, same moment. One of them increases their lifestyle. Slightly nicer apartment, maybe $300 more per month. Starts ordering food a bit more often. Upgrades a few subscriptions. Nothing dramatic. Just small improvements that make life feel a little better. The other person does something almost boring. They take that raise, and they never let their lifestyle see it. They increase their investments, maybe automate it, maybe split it across accounts. Their life stays exactly the same. Here's the difference. The first person feels richer immediately, but becomes more dependent. The second person feels no change, but becomes less dependent. Fast forward 5 years. The first person now needs their current income just to maintain their life. The second person has built a financial buffer that starts generating income on its own. Same raise, completely different outcomes. That's the game most people don't realize they're playing. Every increase in income gives you two options: increase your lifestyle or increase your freedom. Most people unconsciously choose lifestyle because lifestyle is visible. It feels good immediately. It gets rewarded socially. Freedom is invisible. It feels boring. Nobody compliments you for having a lower burn rate. But over time, one compounds into pressure, the other compounds into options. And options are everything. Think about this. If you had enough investments to cover even 30% of your monthly expenses, how would that change your decisions? Suddenly, losing your job isn't catastrophic. It's inconvenient. Suddenly, you can walk away from bad situations. Suddenly, you're negotiating from a position of strength instead of fear. That's what people mean when they talk about financial freedom, but they make it sound like some distant millionaire-level goal. It's not. It starts much earlier. It starts the moment your life stops depending 100% on your next paycheck. But here's why most people never reach that point. Because their spending grows faster than their assets, and they don't even notice it happening. There's a concept called lifestyle inflation, but that phrase doesn't fully capture how subtle it is. It's not one big upgrade. It's dozens of tiny ones. It's the $12 subscription you forgot about, the slightly nicer grocery choices, the convenience purchases that save time, the better seats, the upgraded phone. None of these decisions feel significant on their own, but together they raise your baseline. And once your baseline moves up, it never wants to come back down. That's why people making $200,000 can feel just as financially stressed as someone making $60,000. Because stress isn't about income. It's about the gap between income and obligations. Close that gap, you feel calm. Expand it, you feel pressure, no matter how much you earn. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Your brain is wired to normalize everything. The first time you spend $200 on dinner, it feels expensive. The 10th time, it feels normal. The first time you upgrade your apartment, it feels like a reward. A year later, it just feels like your standard. This is called hedonic adaptation, and it's one of the most powerful forces working against your financial life. Because it guarantees that no matter how much you upgrade your lifestyle, it will eventually feel average again. And once it feels average, your brain starts looking for the next upgrade. That's the loop. Earn more, spend more, normalize, repeat. And if you never interrupt that loop, you can spend decades running in place financially while your income keeps rising. That's how people end up making six figures with no real margin. Now let's flip the perspective. Imagine instead of upgrading your lifestyle every time your income increases, you focused on lowering your dependency, not deprivation, not extreme frugality, just intentional decisions, keeping fixed costs reasonable, avoiding unnecessary monthly obligations, building systems that don't require constant income to function. What happens then? Your life becomes lighter, more flexible, more durable. Because the goal isn't to never spend money. The goal is to avoid building a life that traps you, a life where every decision is constrained by the need to maintain your current level, a life where one disruption creates a chain reaction. And this is where most people get surprised, because the people who look the most free financially often don't look the richest. They don't always have the nicest things. They don't always signal success in obvious ways, but they have something much more valuable: breathing room, margin, time, and most importantly, control. They can make decisions based on what they want, not what they're forced to do to sustain their lifestyle. That's the shift, from income-dependent to system-dependent. Because once your system works, income becomes a tool, not a requirement. And that's when everything changes. And once you start seeing this clearly, you can't unsee it. You start realizing that most financial stress isn't coming from big mistakes. It's coming from invisible leaks, the kind that don't feel like problems in the moment, but quietly drain your future. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine your money as a bucket. Your income pours water in. Your expenses leak water out. Most people focus only on pouring more water, getting a raise, switching jobs, picking up side income. And yes, that helps. But if your bucket is full of small holes, it doesn't matter how much you pour in. You'll still feel like you're barely staying afloat. Now here's the part most people underestimate. The biggest leaks are not obvious. They don't look like financial mistakes. They look like normal life. Take something simple: subscriptions. You open your bank app and see $9.99, $12.99, $15.99. None of them feel important enough to question. But stack them together and suddenly you're spending $200 to $300 a month on things you barely use. That's $3,000 a year. Over 20 years, invested at a normal return, that's well over $100,000 for things you forgot you were paying for. Think about that. Now zoom out. Food delivery. Just convenience, right? You're tired. You order. $25 becomes $40 with fees. Do that 3 times a week. That's roughly $500 a month. That's $6,000 a year. Over 25 years, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost opportunity. And the crazy part? Nobody feels like they're making a bad decision. It feels small, harmless, deserved. That's how the leak works. Not through one big mistake, but through repeated small ones that never feel urgent enough to fix. Now let's go deeper. There's something even more expensive than small purchases. Identity spending. This is where things get real. Because a lot of what people spend money on isn't about the thing itself. It's about what the thing represents. The car isn't just transportation, it's status. The apartment isn't just shelter, it's identity. The clothes, the gadgets, the experiences, they're all signals. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people are spending money to communicate a version of themselves to people who aren't paying that much attention. Read that again. You're financing an image for an audience that is too busy managing their own image to notice yours. That's one of the worst financial trades you can make. And yet, it's incredibly common, because humans are wired for social comparison. You see someone your age doing better, living better, traveling more, and your brain starts adjusting your expectations, not consciously, quietly. You don't think, I need to spend more. You just start doing it. Slightly nicer choices, slightly more upgrades, slightly less resistance to spending. And over time, your baseline shifts again. This is how people get trapped in cycles they don't even realize they entered. It's not one decision, it's drift. Now here's a simple test. Look at your last 10 non-essential purchases. Ask yourself honestly, would I still buy this if nobody ever saw it? No social media, no friends, no external validation, just you. A surprising number of those purchases start to look different. That's not about guilt, it's about awareness. Because once you see where your money is actually going, you can start making decisions instead of defaulting into them. And this is where things start to change, because the goal isn't to cut everything. The goal is to spend with intention. Keep what genuinely improves your life. Cut what quietly drains it. That's it. But here's where most people struggle, not with understanding this, but with acting on it consistently. Because your brain doesn't like delayed rewards. It prefers now over later, every time. There's actually research showing people would require absurd returns just to delay gratification by a few months. That's how strong the pull is. So if you rely on willpower alone, you lose, eventually. That's why systems matter more than discipline. For example, automation. If you automate your savings, your investments, your transfers, you remove the decision. The money moves before your brain gets involved. And that changes everything, because now you're not fighting yourself every month. You've already won the decision. Think about it like this. There are two versions of you, the version that plans and the version that spends. The planner is rational, future-focused, calm. The spender is emotional, present-focused, reactive. Most people let the spender make decisions. Smart people let the planner set the system and then remove the spender from the equation. That's how you actually build momentum. And once momentum starts, it compounds, not just financially, but psychologically. Because something interesting happens when your money starts growing. You start feeling less pressure, less urgency, less need to prove anything. And that changes your behavior. You become more patient, more selective, less reactive. You stop chasing quick wins. You start thinking long-term. And this is the shift nobody talks about. Wealth isn't just numbers. It's a change in how you think, how you decide, how you respond to uncertainty. Because when you're financially fragile, every decision feels urgent. When you're financially stable, you can afford to wait. And waiting is where the real advantages show up. Better opportunities, better decisions, better outcomes. But you only get that if your system supports it. And most people never build that system. They stay stuck reacting, adjusting, trying to keep up, always one step behind their own life, until one day, something forces them to confront it. A job loss, a crisis, a moment where the system breaks, and suddenly all the small decisions add up at once. That's the moment most people realize they were closer to broke than they thought. Not because they failed, but because they never built something that could withstand pressure. And the good news? Once you see it, you can fix it. Not overnight, not perfectly, but intentionally. One decision at a time. And that's where things start to shift in a way most people never experience. And here's where everything comes together. Because once you understand the system, the question is no longer, how do I make more money? The question becomes, how do I make my life harder to break? That's the real game, not maximizing income, but minimizing fragility while letting income work for you instead of controlling you. And the shift starts with something deceptively simple. You stop asking, can I afford this? And start asking, what does this do to my future? Because those are completely different questions. You can afford a lot of things that quietly make your life weaker. You can afford the expensive car. You can afford the nicer apartment. You can afford the convenience. But every yes has a hidden cost, not just in money, but in flexibility, in time, in options. And most people never calculate that second price. They only look at the monthly payment. $600 for a car feels manageable. But what it actually does is remove $600 of flexibility from your life every single month. That's $600 you can't invest. $600 you can't redirect. $600 you now have to earn. No matter what, stack enough of those commitments together, and you build a life that demands performance just to stay stable. That's not wealth. That's pressure with a nice interior. Now flip that. Imagine instead of increasing your fixed costs, you focused on keeping them intentionally low. Not minimal, not extreme, just controlled. Suddenly, everything changes, because now your required income drops. And when your required income drops, your options expand. You can take risks. You can say no. You can pivot. You can recover faster when something goes wrong. That's resilience. And resilience is what most people mistake for wealth. Let me give you a simple example. Two people both earn $100,000. One needs $90,000 a year to sustain their lifestyle. The other needs $50,000. Who is actually wealthier? It's not even close. The second person has room, margin, freedom. The first person has none. They're one disruption away from stress. And here's the interesting part. From the outside, the first person often looks more successful. Better car, better apartment, more visible lifestyle. But internally, they're carrying more pressure. That's the trade most people make without realizing it. They trade internal stability for external appearance. And over time, that trade compounds. Now let's talk about what actually builds real security. Not the theory, the practical side. First, reduce fixed expenses where it actually matters. Housing, transportation, recurring obligations. These are the anchors of your financial life. You don't need to optimize every small expense, but if you get these wrong, everything else becomes harder. Second, build an emergency buffer that actually matches your life. Not a random number, not what sounds good. A real buffer based on your actual monthly burn. Because the purpose of that money isn't growth, it's protection. It buys you time. And time is what allows you to make good decisions instead of desperate ones. Third, start building assets that generate income, even small at first. Investments, side income, anything that creates cash flow outside your main job. Because every additional source of income reduces your dependency on the main one. And dependency is the real risk. Fourth, automate everything that matters. Saving, investing, transfers. Remove friction. Remove decision fatigue. Because consistency beats intensity every time. You don't need perfect months. You need repeatable systems. And finally, protect your attention. Because your financial life is shaped by what you're exposed to daily. Ads, social media, other people's lifestyles. All of it is designed to make you feel like you need more. More upgrades, more consumption, more spending. And if you don't actively filter that, you'll drift, slowly, quietly, expensively. That's why awareness matters so much. Because once you see the game clearly, you stop playing it blindly. You start making intentional moves. You start asking better questions. You start building something that actually supports you instead of controlling you. And here's the part most people don't expect. This doesn't feel restrictive. It feels lighter. Because you're no longer chasing a moving target. You're no longer trying to keep up. You're no longer dependent on constant income just to feel stable. You're building something that works in the background, quietly, consistently. And over time, that changes how you experience money entirely. It stops being a source of pressure and starts becoming a tool that gives you options, flexibility, control, and eventually, freedom. Not the flashy version, not the social media version, the real version. The ability to make decisions without fear, the ability to absorb shocks without panic, the ability to live your life without constantly calculating whether you can afford it. And that's the difference, not income. Not status, not appearances, just structure. Because at the end of the day, the people who win financially are not the ones who earn the most. They're the ones who build lives that don't break when income changes. And once you understand that, you realize something powerful. You don't need a completely different life to become financially secure. You just need a better structure, one decision at a time, one system at a time, one shift at a time. And the earlier you start, the less you'll have to fix later. Because the math doesn't care how much you earn. It only cares how you build. And if you build it right, time does the rest.